Oh, I'm about to say, I'm like, I don't even go on live all the time. So what's wrong with StreamYard, yo? Get your shit right.
Fuck StreamYard.
That's crazy. Bill don't want no smoke, man. He's like just going after people as soon as he come home. I love it. Just like Pac did. Pac came home and he went straight to the studio going after people. Bill Cosby's a new Tupac.
Shit. Yeah.
uh, Bill gonna make All Eyes on Me Part 2. That's funny. Yep.
You
I think
mentioned.
Felicia been, huh?
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was saying I think Phil had some relations with Claire in real life, off camera.
I don't believe that. They're just both
You don't
trolling.
believe she been the most loyal, down ass woman for him since this whole thing started. I ain't even hear his wife say anything. You
That's
know.
why this is some stuff.
Oh, his wife did. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm like Felicia been coming out on social media defending Cliff. I'm like shit. She really down for her husband. They were taking this too seriously off camera. Is
They're just
is
close.
is
They're just
is?
close friends.
I'm about to say, is the kids really this?
Stop.
Is Malcolm Jamal Warner really this? Like, I just wanted to know. No, let me stop. I love the Cosby Show. They put the Cosby Show back on streaming. That was quick. It's
Oh
like
wow.
Bill had the plug. He's like, as soon as he walked out that door, he's like, okay, I want my shit back on Amazon. They
Wait,
put it on
it's been on
Amazon. He
Amazon.
went, huh?
Were you talking about the Cosby Show or the
Yeah,
Cosby Show
it's on
90?
Amazon streaming. Yeah, it's back on Amazon.
Hold on.
Cause it was gone for a minute. They put it right back as soon as he came out of jail.
To me, it's always been on Amazon.
It's always been on there. I haven't
Yeah.
seen. I just saw the thumbnail today. I'm like, oh shit. I mean, it's not like I was looking for it. 'Cause I know I basically know like that whole series by heart. But I seen the thumbnail come up. I'm like, oh, is the Cosby Show back on Amazon streaming?
I remember when the Cosby Show used to be on like four channels and shit on TV.
Right, right. It was on TBS. It was on, I think Nickelodeon. Nick and Knight had it for a while.
TV Land.
Right, TV Land.
Now it's just on TV Land.
Right. Yeah, it's on streaming. I'm like, what? Amazon got it? Okay. Shit. That's crazy. Can we get R. Kelly music back on streaming? Man.
Hell.
Right. Man. Yep. It's crazy, yo. Yep. Boy, yeah. But man. Let's just talk about this documentary real quick. I was watching this documentary, the documentary of Mary J. Blige, My Life, which came out on June 25th, and it's on Amazon streaming now currently. Just discussing the whole documentary was about her classic sophomore R&B album, My Life. Definitely a classic album. It's definitely one of my favorite albums of all time as far as like R&B albums go, and we get to finally after all these years we get to. I didn't even know this documentary was being made, but I ended up seeing it like the trailer for it online like a couple weeks ago before the it actually came on streaming, and I'm like finally we get to hear the story that we always wanted to hear about classic albums being made at that time, especially for the '90s. So many classic albums from R&B and hip hop being made, and we want the fans naturally want to hear what was it like to make these classic albums, and this is one of those albums that I've always cherished and the fans always cherished and wanted to know what was it like with Mary J at that time making this classic album, and we've heard stories about her being on drugs and the relationship with KC from Jodeci, and Suge Knight managing her on at a death row. So I always it was glad to it was glad to finally hear some of those stories, about the making of this album. And Mary J was like, my first concert ever, like going to see her in 1992 on her first major tour, the Uptown MCA tour. And that was a great tour with Jodeci was on that tour. Actually, they were headlining, and Father MC, and P Rock and CeeLo Smooth, who was like the only artist not on to that label, that they were the opening act. And Heavy D, rest in peace, Heavy D. Heavy D and the boys showed up. They were like the surprise guests for that tour. And even back then in '92, like I knew, like, yo, like this is something special I'm watching. And I don't know if it was because I was like actually there watching her perform, and it's like being like it was my first concert. And sometimes I had to pinch myself. It actually, like, I'm actually looking at Mary J. Blige. And at that time, Real Love had came out and had blown up. And I was a big fan of that record. And You Remind Me, and that whole first album was the 4-in-1. And then she, 2 years later, she drops My Life. And that album was like, it came at a great time. And you know a really personal time for me. Like, I had just lost my grandmother a year before that in '93. And like every music, I used music for my therapy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't going to see some psychiatrist and sit on some stranger's couch and talk about my life with no stranger. So music was my therapy. And at that time, like, all of those albums that came out in '93, '94, '95 was like, that was like my therapist. And My Life was definitely one of those albums. And just the whole we talked about this album in the past, just the production and the songs. And it was just she was just in the zone at that time, and we didn't know she was going through so much turmoil. And I think this documentary definitely covered that. And she was real open about what was going on in her life at that time, like dealing with drugs, you know dealing with having the ups and downs of fame and becoming a celebrity at that time. And having the major success off of our first album. Everything just happened so fast. And then having those expectations for your sophomore album. And trying to overcome the sophomore jinx that a lot of artists succumb to. And being in a high profile relationship with another singer from a popular group at that time, with Casey from Jodeci. And I think it definitely covered her struggles at that time with newfound fame and fortune. And then making this album, as well as juggling a relationship that got so public in the media. I remember hearing about, and this is before the internet. I remember hearing about the relationship with her and Casey. And having still working with Casey. Casey was on her first album, and as well as on My Life. And it was a lot to deal with, for her. And you know I could only imagine, like her. I feel like a lot of artists escape with drugs and alcohol to escape that. They don't have no privacy no more, because they're on top of the world and everybody know them. Everybody see their face all over TV. And I think that's why they escape, is to just drown themselves in liquor and pills. And you've seen so many artists succumb to that. And you know over the years, commit suicide. And to try to escape that fame. And it's sad, you know what I'm saying. And luckily she hasn't done that, thank God. And she's still here to tell her story. And I thought it was a great like personal look inside her life. And her family, having her sister Latanya Blige on there, and talk about some things. And you know from a sister's perspective, and what her sister was going through at that time, personally and artistically. Then you got Puffy which I can't stand Puffy at this point. He did his thing at that time when he was actually when it was all about the music and not himself, and all credit go to him at that time for making a great album and overseeing that project. You know, and of course I knew he was going to be in it. I think he was like one of the executive producers, and you had different producers. You had Chucky Thompson, who did a lot of production on this album. He did stuff for Biggie, rest in peace to Biggie on Ready to Die, and a lot of other artists as well. And he was talking about some songs that he produced. You had Big Bub from the R&B group, the New Jack Swing group today. He was on the album as well and wrote some songs. And I like the fact that he was talking about telling Mary when she saw him that that she's gonna make they're gonna make a classic album, and she didn't believe him, and then they end up doing just that. And I like the fact that she had different um her collaborators on this album to help make the album a classic. A part of this documentary, because without them they probably wouldn't have it probably wouldn't be a classic album. So I'm glad the fact that you had Chucky Thompson and you had Big Bub and Puffy and other people as well talk about their contribution to this classic album. And um, the one thing I think the documentary is great. The one thing I didn't like, and it's a minor thing, is just the shade that was thrown at Casey from Jodeci, because I
Yeah.
feel like if people don't, like, especially for the new generation, if they don't know this album and they go back and they listen to this album and then they watch the documentary, and they might feel like, oh well, this album was a classic because of what she was going through with Casey, and I just don't believe that. I feel like the album, whether she had a great relationship with Casey or not, I think the album would have been a classic anyway. And it just the shade that they were throwing at Casey just made it seem like, well, he was like the major reason why the album is what it is. And they had a bad relationship and they were both young and dumb, and that's just what happens. We've seen that a lot with celebrities. Madonna married Sean Penn when they both were young, and I'm pretty sure they regret that now. And it just happens. And but I don't think in any way that her relationship with KC, because it ended so bad, is the reason why the album became a classic. I just feel like, okay, we get it. They had a bad relationship. They were young. Let's not harp on. Let's not dog Casey out, because Mary wasn't an angel herself. She was on drugs. I've heard rumors about her with different celebrities, and having secret kids and hiding and stuff like that over the years. So that Casey was at fault and she was at fault. So, but we hear the rumors. You know what I'm saying? Like Danny Boy came out a couple weeks ago and said he was involved with her, and I haven't a lot of this stuff I haven't even heard until now. I'm like, why are all these people coming out now with all this Mary J talk? Like why is it because of the documentary? you know, they feel like they're gonna get outed. So I didn't really understand that, but um, you know, they had their issues. That didn't stop KC from making classics with Jodeci, like second album, Diary of a Mad Band, the show, The After Party, The Hotel. Like those are classic albums, and he was dealing with that shit, as well with on his end. So it's like I wish he would have been in the documentary, and I don't know if they asked him and he said no, but I wish he would have been able to tell his side of what went down, and looking back at when he was in his 20s at that time, how he felt about their relationship, because that would have been good to see. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, I think the documentary was great, and I think we need more documentaries for these classic albums. Like I love the Illmatic documentary that we had for Nas, and for this one, and I want to see more artists make documentaries about the classic albums that the fans love, and would like to hear stories about. So I thought it was a nicely done documentary. What did you think about it?
Personally, I feel like the documentary was very good.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it talks about like her career up to my life, like the impact that What's the 411 had.
Right.
My life album has been such a timeless album. No, I'm not gonna argue that it's like a lot of people's favorite album, Mary J. Blige and whatnot.
Right.
Personally, I feel like with that album, it definitely showed like the world like experiences like the black woman was going through when it comes to like depression and
Right.
shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? I like how they interview like the producers and shit on that too. Like, say what you want to say about Puff, but Puffy had that right formulaic sound and shit like that too. That excuse me, a lot of people really try to duplicate that my life sound and stuff like that too. Heck, I'm not even gonna lie, with the what's that Faith Evans Faith album kind of felt like was influenced heavily by the My Life album, in my opinion, and shit.
Right.
Which that was a dope album too, but
Definitely.
still,
Definitely.
like you said, I wish that they would have more input from KC because I hate, like I said, I hate when people always just say, "Oh well, she was going through this with KC and shit like that."
Right.
Well, it's like pretty much you already going through that shit before, like before
Exactly.
KC. So
And
yeah,
but
man.
that it's not to cut you off, but it's like that's all I kept hearing about it. Like and she talked about it. She mentioned the fact that um people say that she makes her best stuff when she's going through it, when she has drama in her life, and that's been the consensus with the fans for years. I've heard that for years about over the like, and I think it's like it's become more prevalent since the No More Drama album because like once she got married, and that's another thing, she didn't mention her marriage at all to the guy. What's his name, Kendall.
Yeah,
She didn't mention at all anything about the marriage. So I thought that was interesting, and it's like she was going through drama with even with that marriage, and it's like that. I think I heard more of that after No More Drama because to me her albums haven't been the same since No More Drama. Like I like the Breakthrough, that was solid, but after that it's like her albums are hit and miss. Like Growing Pains and Stronger with each tear, and a lot of those other albums were hit and miss. And that was the consensus. Like she makes her best music when she's going through drama, and now that you know, she dropped the album after she got divorced to her husband, to her ex husband. So that album wasn't good. I'm expecting to hear a solid Mary album the next time she drops something because she normally talked about what she was going through, the pain and the suffering when she was dealing with it. She needs to like open up that lane again and go down that road again, and give us a classic album because it's been years since I could say Mary had a classic album, and I love Mary J. Blige. She's my favorite R&B singer all time, as far as females. But she needs a classic album again. We haven't gotten that in such a long time. So
yeah, I definitely agree with you on that, man. And I like how they kept playing that "Everybody Loves the Sunshine" track
right,
by Roy Ayers and shit too,
yeah,
which that's been sampled a lot in hip hop and R&B.
right,
Um, Master Ace used that for "You Can't Find Me." Brand Nubian used that for what's that track? What's that track? Wake Up,
wake
Wake
up
Up and stuff
when the
like
first
that. I
album,
mean,
yeah,
it's such a
yeah,
timeless track in my opinion.
definitely, definitely.
But yeah, this is a very good documentary.
And they actually playing that song, that Roy Ayers song in a new commercial with like a seal.
Hmm.
I was like, yo, they just capitalizing. I'm like, everybody's capitalizing now on my life. Where was this before? You know.
I mean, it be like that sometimes.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I forgot to mention the director. The director was Vanessa Roth. She directed the documentary. And you get to see Andre Harrell. Rest in peace to him. He is a part of this documentary. So this was obviously filmed right before he passed away. So
Right.
I thought that was interesting too. I even back last year I didn't even hear about the documentary being filmed. So I thought that was interesting. You know,
Shit.
but
Yeah,
but
rest in
yeah,
peace,
it's
Andre Harrell.
huh?
I said rest in peace, Andre Harrell.
Yeah. But it and they got into some of the songs. She talked about some of the songs. I would have liked to hear her like talk about each track. Like No One Else and I Love You and what was it like especially like some of the remixes that came from this album, like the I Love You remix of Smith and Wesson. That's always been one of my favorites.
Same.
And the remix for I'm Going Down with I think Mr. Cheeks was on that.
Yeah.
And they from the Lost Boys, and they used the Biggie the What beat. And I thought that was
Yep.
a dope remix, and the Be Happy remix with Keith Murray. Everybody knows that joint. And I would have liked to hear her talk about some of the remixes, for this album. But I still think it was a great documentary, and seeing Mary was sobbing in certain scenes, and talking about the stuff that she's been through, and it was like a one of those like in-depth looks up in her life that we don't normally see from her. She really opened up with this documentary, so I thought that was good to see. So yeah, like I definitely think it's a great documentary for like all the Mary fans that never um that always were interested in you know hearing about this album and seeing like a more personal side of Mary. This definitely is the documentary for you. Definitely got to check it out on Amazon and streaming services. So shout out to Amazon for having that, because they I haven't I'm not really big on Amazon streaming, but they have like in the last couple of months they had like some good content on their streaming platform. So shout out to them for that.
Yeah, mind you, it's free too. So
Right, and it's free. Yes, you ain't gotta pay. No Disney Plus, no Hulu. It's free on Amazon. If you're Amazon Prime members, I'm loving it. I'm loving the content. I just saw a movie called The Tomorrow War on there. It's one of the best movies this year that I've seen on there.
yeah,
You know what I
I'm
mean?
about to get fucking Flume TV soon and shit.
Yeah, and they got the Pink documentary movie. I want to check that out also.
Yeah, I heard that was good. The Ice Cream
Yeah,
Kingdom, right?
yeah, cause her daughter's in it and everything. It's like a behind the scenes when she was on tour and like everyday life. And I've always been a Pink fan, so I want to check that out.
Okay, bad, bad.
You know what I mean? Definitely. Shit, I might do a discussion on that too. you know, you
I
into
know there's
Pink or
a.
no? You a Pink
You
fan?
said what?
Are you a Pink fan?
I won't call myself a fan, but I do like her music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
She's
was thinking about doing a review on this documentary about like the making of sitcoms and shit on CNN.
okay. Cool. Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of getting this Sling TV because I don't have CNN. To be
Right.
real.
True. No doubt. But yeah, like this. This is I definitely if I had to like rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it like a 9. I think it was it
Same.
was it was that good, and like I said, like it just brought back that nostalgia from '94 when this album dropped, and it was like in the winter time, and it was cold, but we had like great music to keep us warm in at the crib, and it just, man, I bumped this album like nonstop from front to back. Like I had all type of, it was in my heavy rotation basically. Like when I had Illmatic and when I had Ready to Die, My Life was right there with it, and I still play. You know what I'm saying? Like I still bump that every time I bump like joints like Mary Jane or You Bring Me Joy or you know Be Happy. It just takes me back to that year '94, and that's like timeless music for me. So I'm glad that she could finally discuss like the album and what it took into making the album. So definitely a classic.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that.
Yes. All right, and we done. So subscribe to the channel, Danny Rap Podcast. It's your boy Trabo and Reg. Let me know in the comments your favorite tracks from this legendary album, My Life, or your worst tracks from the album. I don't believe anybody has bad tracks off of this album, but if you do, let me know. Let me know if you saw the documentary. What did you think? What do you think they should have added? And yeah, subscribe, comment, like, share. We out.
All right, peace. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Peace.
Peace.